Thank you. And thanks for hanging around. I know it's late in the day, so I'm going to try and be as positive as possible. I don't know what the young people want, but I'm willing to throw a spin on it. My name's Blair Brown. I am a Regional Ag Officer with Growcom. I'm here today to talk to you about what I've learned with a gap year project we undertook that started at the very commencement of COVID and ended last month. Before I go on, I'm part of the Queensland Ag Workforce Network. So I'm one of 7 officers which are stationed across Queensland. So our jobs are essentially to provide advice and guidance on attraction, retention and development strategies for you as agribusinesses. So you can use us in as little or as much in a capacity as you like. We are a free service. So please reach out if you don't know your corn officer in your area. Now that could be as simple as, hey, call this person, or it could be as complex as sitting down and going through any sort of business or workforce planning document. By way of background, briefly, I'm a failed business owner. I've run 2 businesses before. I have a very limited background in ag. I'm 2 years in, made a life decision a few years back to get into an industry that I wanted to really give back to. In a nutshell, I understand what you're going through. Just when you thought you couldn't hear more about Labor, I'm here to talk about it. I won't push too much into this, but I've got 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a video, and this video will formulate part of the story around gap years.
Travel plans off the cards? Guess what? They don't have to be. There are plenty of ways to satisfy your travel bug with a gap year experience right in your own backyard. Got no money? No dramas. There are a heap of epic gap year opportunities up in Queensland that not only keep Australia thriving, but give you a chance to earn some sweet dosh as you travel around. Just think of travelling as far north as Cairns for tours of the Great Barrier Reef, or as far south as Stanthorpe for hikes through the Girrawheen National Park. You'll be getting a backstage pass to Queensland and all it has to offer. Create lifetime memories, meet a bunch of people like you, travel around the backyard of Australia, and gain amazing experiences working in Queensland's agriculture industry. And while you're doing all that, you'll be racking up money to spend on the next big adventure. Now, put your travel plans back on the cards.
So when COVID hit and backpackers left the country, we thought, shit, what do we do? We thought there's going to be this huge labour hole, and we were contemplating what was going to happen, and not me, I can't take credit for it, but we came up with a gap year concept. So the concept was around how we mobilise young people coming from an adventure and fun aspect to go and see regional Queensland, but to use agriculture as a conduit to do it. So this whole campaign was based around social media marketing. If any of you have teenagers, you'll know that they spend about 25 hours on their phone every day, and it doesn't come off the end of their nose. So that was very much essential to this whole strategy. We came up with a whole lot of marketing paraphernalia driving them to a landing page. So once they hit this landing page, they got to go through a bit of a tour. So they got to essentially connect with 24 employers of choice, which were assessed as fair and ethical employers. And part of that process was for them to be able to connect and say, hey, I'm young Bill, I'm from wherever I'm from, and I'm looking to work. And then, we didn't provide any recruitment, but we trained them. So they undertook a micro-credential on the way through, so that when they turned up on day one, they weren't completely green. And the connection was then up to the employer and the person looking to go and work. We realised that a lot of these young people had no idea about ag, right? No idea where the farms were situated, no idea, what they did. So we tried to take the guesswork out of it by giving them some predetermined journeys. So we would, the one down the bottom here was, up around Mareeba, if I can see that far, and I think Stanthorpe might even be Sweets, that one at the bottom there. So we gave them an option to say, well, you can either pick it yourself and you can go and, decide I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go here, much like any other gap year, right? So because they couldn't do it, they couldn't go and pour beers in a danky pub in London or whatnot. The next best thing was, hey, go and see regional Queensland, go and explore the map, go and connect with some employers, but ultimately go and explore, go and do what you can't do right now. Everyone getting stir crazy inside. We were trying to encourage them to get out and be free and go and experience. So this is some of the marketing paraphernalia we came up with. So again, aimed at 16 to 24 years old. Believe me, this was a learning experience for me. Just how young people talk at times was, and trying to write the lingo. I swear they say like every third word. Quite amazing. And that had to be reflective in most of these pieces, because when we wrote editorials, we had to capture the reader's attention really, really quickly. So yeah, a lot of this stuff we came up with, and it was like I said, quite a learning curve. And interestingly, the editorials were quite well viewed in comparison to the general news feeds, which was quite pleasing. We ended up doing some polls as well to educate us along the way, around what young people thought at the time around gap years. And, if they had taken a gap year, if they hadn't, if you had taken one, why did you find it beneficial? We actually had some decent response rates to it. We didn't think we'd get too many because, again, it's one of those things, young people don't have great attention spans, but there was a whole lot of good information that came back. The vanity metrics here. So we ended up, the campaign impressions were about 1.3 mil. We ended up reaching about 630,000 young people. Our video was played about 200,000 times. And the campaign clicks through to our landing page were almost 14,000. So what we learnt that young people, even with COVID restrictions, were very keen to get out and do a gap year and explore regional Queensland. We learnt that there's an increasing appetite to travel domestically. We learnt that through COVID, young people were genuinely confused about what they could do and where they could go. We learnt that whilst there was motivation to take a gap year, there was a real reluctance to travel at that point in time because their support networks were so close. We learnt that there was jobs in hospitality that paid more than we do. I had a kid line me up one day and he said, mate, why would I travel 2 hours that way to a business I don't know, to a place I'm not familiar with, to accommodation that's not my bed, to an hourly rate that's less than I'd earn at the local cafe? And I thought, can't answer that, but go kid, go for your life. He actually ended up going, not because of what I sold him, but we learnt that over the long term, we need to commence work on how ag can creatively influence and connect with a young person's mindset on things like environmental, the environment, health, personal development, life experience, and an unpreparedness for university post-school life. So we need to better connect these concepts to form our value proposition and our attraction strategies. So who am I talking about? Gen Z, born between 97 to 2012. So generation connected, they call them, the .com kids. They're the largest population ever. So they comprise around 20% of Australia's population, about 30% of the world's population. Globally, there's 2 billion of them. 1 in 2 are predicted to obtain a university degree. They're going to work across 18 jobs, 6 careers, have 15 homes in their lives, and by 2025, they'll make up 27% of the global workforce. So like it or not, when we talk labour, these guys are growing up and they're going to become an increasingly large portion of our workforce. And it's funny, this one, because I actually did have a Rubik's Cube. My first girlfriend's dad had a Holden Commodore. It's pretty spot on. And my Workman broke because I used it so much. I love this infographic. So Gen Zs came of an age at the same time that online platforms and social media gave them the ability and the power to share their opinions online, influence distant people and institutions, and question authority in different ways. These forces have shaped their worldviews, their values, and their behaviours. But sadly, mental health challenges are a sad characteristic of Gen Z, which has often been referred to as the loneliest generation, as they spend endless hours online, and endless hours online fosters isolation and depression. So they are looking at work as a social outing. And that means cultivating meaningful relationships, and that is an opportunity for us as an industry to try and figure out how we can essentially appeal to these young people to not turn work into a social gathering, but there is aspects of our social connectedness that we need to inspire with these young people. Ultimately, these younger generations, they want to work for companies with a purpose beyond profit. That came through loud and clear. Companies that share their values and they feel more empowered to make a difference in those organisations. So knowing that, and I know this is difficult, but as business leaders and within the context of the broader business goals, we should be actively encouraging Gen Zs to channel their determination and focus their efforts on areas that they're passionate about. And that just means that, like any onion, you've got to peel back. You've got to start understanding these young people. Because ultimately they will argue with you on the fine line between narcissism and supreme confidence. And that's a tough one. So how do we do it? Hands up anyone who's heard of employer branding before? Yeah, probably most of you. Just remind me, I've got a Lychee story. I forget to tell it every time. I'll probably forget it today, but Rachel throw something at me if I forget it. So attracting your workforce through employer branding and how we do it. So employer branding describes an employer's reputation as a place to work and their employee value proposition, as opposed to a general, more corporate branding around their products or services. For example, we do the best berries in Australia. In other words, employer branding is how you market your company, not only to your external job candidates, but also your internal employees. So it's hard because it's something that's easy to brush past, because you guys are most of the time very busy doing technical aspects and out, and I guess labour's probably not going away in the short term. But this sort of stuff, these sort of ideas around employer branding, whilst they're not going to provide immediate fruit for you, they will provide you with longer term impact to attract and retain these people, because products and services are great, and whilst you might have a very solid reputation as a business regarding your products and services, that won't be enough to keep these young people today. You have to pay attention to your brand as an employer, not necessarily just your products. I got these just as an example, and we've all seen these sorts of ads. The one on the left is from a jobs page on Facebook, and I actually touched base with the girl at the time. The ad read to me like she got no money and she needs to work, but I'll work anywhere but a farm. So I actually sent her a text to say, hey, a Facebook message to say, hey, just wondering why. Introduce myself, saying I'm from the Peak Body Horticulture, would love to understand. And she said, I've just heard stories. And I said, well, can you, and I think she thought I was weird or something like that, so she didn't answer back. But the 8 seconds of attention was up, I think, at that time. So she moved on. But the one on the right came up on my Facebook feed. That's a hairdressing salon. I don't know this business at all, but geez, I want to work for them. What is it, a trip to Bali at the end of the year? And I only put this up, if you can read through it yourself, I only put this up to show you that these are the sorts of things that are happening at the moment. I heard the mining, I think it was the BHP CFO yesterday, just say, listen, they're plenty short. It's on the news this morning, truckies are short. Everybody, this competitive landscape right now is just crazy. And if we're not at the pointy end of that stick, and that doesn't necessarily mean just cash, but if we're not at the pointy end of the stick, then we're going to get left behind and pretty quick. And just hearing Steve before say with both the PLS and the SWP, it's certainly not the silver bullet. And it's as easy as it is to browse over Aussies, because we've all done it, right? We've all employed young Aussies, and geez, they're little great little people at times to work alongside. We've got to get to know them, and we've got to try and do better. So this is just, in a lot of countries and industries, the most in-demand occupations didn't exist, 5 years ago. So that pace of change is set to accelerate. And for us as an industry, it's no different. By one popular estimate, 65% of children entering primary school today will ultimately end up working in completely new jobs that don't even exist yet. By 2050, we're going to need about 80% more energy, 55% more water, and 6% more food than what we currently produce. So, if robots are not going to take over in the next 10 years, we've got to look to people. So, bump your ride, globalisation, environmental change. Globalisation is linked to productivist ags, so larger corporate, well-capitalised firms stepping into this space. A hungrier world I've just spoken about, a wealthier world. So by 2030, the Asian countries are predicted to add about 1 billion people to the middle class, including about 75 million from Indonesia. The people are eating more, and that's probably choosy customers as well. Our wealth profile is changing as an industry. Our consumers, as we well know, want to know where the foods come from, and everything in between. And the transformative tech, in particular, I think, genetic science, improving yields, shelf lives, reducing food waste, nutrient density, all that sort of stuff. And I say this with a particular view in mind around stories. I stole this. I can't claim it. It's from an author. When I talk about those transformative things, I'm going to push back on you around finding your why, because this is part of your value proposition as an employer. So the what is, what you do, you grow stuff, that's your products and services. How to do it, that's your proprietary processes, your 7 secret herbs and spices, all that sort of stuff. But I want you to reconnect with your why. Now, the why is that's limbic brain, that's emotional, behaviour responses. This is not airy-fairy fluffy stuff. This is very much driving the behaviour of young people. So, this is your purpose, your cause, your beliefs, the very reason at its core that you exist. So, families owned for generations, want to make a difference, social compliance frameworks, environmental stewards of the land, the reason you get up out of bed every day, and the reason why anyone should give a shit. And it's important for you, as complex as we get as businesses at times, is to strip that back and simplify and go back to the world-class basics of what we do and how we do it. And the reason that once upon a time you were, probably still are, but once upon a time jumping up out of bed every day to do what you do. I'm on the clock, so I'm going to keep rolling through this. But this is an example of an employee value proposition. Now, I'm happy to help you with any of this sort of stuff that I've walked through today, but this is just an example. So kid on the left, late teens, looking for an adventure, hasn't decided on what he wants to do, looking for an experience and a job. So for you as an employer, there's a couple of things that we need to go through as far as what can we offer. So location, and bearing in mind city kids love the country. What are the realistic pros of the location? I mean, for example, Stanthorpe, Girraween, there's wine out there. There's parts of your property maybe that might even be Insta-worthy, as the young kids say. That's an appeal, and that's sort of the stuff that we need to talk about. Tenure, considering how long they've been there, what can you offer as a business for that seasonal, X amount of time or in weeks that they do? What are the transferable skills they can learn while they're there? What can you teach them while they're there? And this is all sort of stuff we need to start thinking about when we're throwing job descriptions out there. Don't like talking about the finances because we can't really compete. And all I'd say is that cash was king 10 years ago. I guess cash still is king, but this younger generation don't see cash the way that I saw cash back in the day. They want impact and they want a difference, so we can compete in other areas. And like I said before, this is the loneliest generation, so you've got to start talking about your team. What does your team do well? If you've got a younger team, tell that story. So our experiences shape who we are and how we feel and what we bring, but our stories connect us. So I would really encourage you guys to start understanding your audience and this younger audience. Whilst I don't have a huge handle on them, I know a lot more than when I started, so I'm really happy to help you out. I'm on 0 now, am I? It's just some of the things just to quiz you, and I'm happy to send this out, but I guess you guys can read through that. But these are some of the questions that I would encourage you to give some thought to around your attraction strategies and even your retention strategies as a business. And it was 2018, the NFF did a survey, a general punter survey, and they found that 83% of Aussies felt completely disconnected from agriculture, which is a huge opportunity, right? You can either look at it to say, shit, we're doing something bad, or geez, that's a huge opportunity. And that's how I would like to see it. So results, finding your why, stripping it back and finding your why as a business should find you more of the right applicants, not straight away, but it will. Recruitment efficiencies, better performance cultures, stronger retention, more employee engagement. You know, this is the sort of stuff we need to, like I said, be at the very sharp end of that stick. 3 tips for Gen Z: communicate your why. It's no longer enough fair days pay for a fair day's work. These kids want contribution, they want impact, they want to make a difference. Build your culture. Don't be that business that has the corporate buzzwords of respect and innovation and walk your talk. You know, if it's there, live it, breathe it, subscribe to it, own it, externalize it, all that sort of stuff. It is super important if you want to attract good people. And encourage variety. Gen Z's worst nightmare is stuck in a job that they don't find fulfilling and they find mind-numbing. You know, so we have to find intrinsic motivators. So inherent satisfaction. You know, how can we provide, you know, these young kids with some satisfaction in their job roles? This is the last one, but I just thought it was... The Aussie bush still holds a place in every Aussie's heart, and I think with this Gen Z, it's no different. So we have to start, you know, reconnecting with some of these concepts. So that's that one, and I honestly think that it could be the next schoolies, and that was a great article because I think that it, you know, this could be. We don't want the drunken pissheads, but you know, we could attract seasonal workforces through this. That one on the right is just the mining thing I spoke about before. So if I'm summing up, please reach out. Like I said, there's 7 of us throughout the state. Any sort of business planning, workforce planning. If you want to chat young people, how to attract and retain, I'm very open to it. But thank you for hearing me out and sorry for going over time. Cheers.